What I'm about to tell you will shatter everything you think you know about retiring in the Philippines. Right now, thousands of Western retirees are living in the Philippines. They came for the cheap rent, the warm weather, the English-speaking locals, the fresh fish at the market, and the YouTube videos that made it all look so simple. And most of them are heading toward a disaster they never saw coming. I'm going to expose the failure rate that the Philippine Tourism Board doesn't want you to know about, the traps that destroy expat dreams, the money mistakes that wipe out life savings, and the one thing that separates the 18% who actually thrive from the 82% who don't. This is not another beautiful Philippines travel video. This is the truth, and it might be the most important thing you watch before you book that one-way ticket. Look at the videos. The white sand beaches of Boracay, the chocolate hills of Bohol, the smiling vendors at the Palenque handing you mangoes for 20 cents, the $2 full meals at the Carinderia, the $250 apartments with the ocean view. This is what they show you. This is exactly how they hook you. But here's what nobody tells you. Let me give you a real example. Call him Gary, 63 years old, retired electrical engineer from Ohio, arrived in Cebu City with $220,000 in retirement savings. Excited, prepared, he thought. Had watched every YouTube video he could find. Want to know how much he has left after 2 years? Less than $30,000. And Gary is not alone. According to data from the American Citizen Services Unit at the U.S. Embassy in Manila, they process hundreds of emergency repatriation assistance requests every year. Americans who came to paradise and ran out of money. Americans who need help getting home because home is the only option left. The cheap paradise you've been sold is a carefully constructed illusion. Not because Filipinos are dishonest, not because the Philippines is dangerous, but because the gap between what this life looks like on a YouTube video and what it actually costs to live it sustainably is enormous. And most people fall into that gap before they ever see it coming. Let me show you exactly how. Trap 1. The budget illusion. The number one mistake I see expats make is arriving with a budget built on YouTube math. Someone shows you their monthly expenses, $600 rent, $80 in groceries from the market, $40 on eating out, $30 internet, total, maybe $650 a month. And you think, I can do this on my Social Security check alone. What that video doesn't show you is everything that's not in the monthly budget. The plane ticket home for a family emergency, $2,000 to $3,500 minimum, often booked last minute. The medical evacuation when something goes seriously wrong, $15,000 to $80,000. The lawyer when your visa application gets complicated, $500 to $2,000 and up. The deposit you lost on the first apartment that turned out to have a landlord problem. The motorbike accident that wasn't your fault, but is your expense. The typhoon that flooded your ground floor apartment and destroyed $4,000 worth of electronics. And the landlord said, sorry, not my problem. None of that is in the monthly budget video. Here is the real budget breakdown for the Philippines. Survival level, $900 to $1,300 a month. Shared accommodation in a Filipino neighborhood. Street food and market cooking only. Public transport exclusively. Government hospital only. No savings buffer. No emergency fund. One unexpected expense away from crisis. Comfortable living, $1,800 to $2,800 a month. Your own one-bedroom apartment. Mixed local and Western food. Occasional taxi. Private clinic access. Basic international insurance. Small monthly savings cushion. This is the level most expat videos describe. This is achievable, but notice, it requires more than a basic Social Security check in most cases. Western lifestyle, $3,500 to $5,500 a month. 2-bedroom in a nicer building. Regular Western restaurant meals. Premium healthcare coverage. Car or regular car hire. Reliable international insurance with no gaps. comfortable savings rate. The trap is this. People budget for comfortable living, but arrive with a survival income and a Western lifestyle expectation. That gap destroys people financially within 18 months, every single time. Trap 2. The healthcare time bomb. This is the trap that kills the dream more permanently than any other. And I say kills deliberately. Everyone talks about how cheap healthcare is in the Philippines, and for routine care, it is. A doctor's consultation at a private clinic, $10 to $15. Basic blood work, $25 to $40. A simple procedure that costs $800 in America costs $80 here. But here is what nobody in the YouTube videos is telling you. Philippine private hospitals operate on a cash-first basis. No payment up front, no treatment. Full stop. And when something serious happens, a cardiac event, a stroke, cancer, a serious accident, the bills are not $80. They are $40,000 to $200,000, and they are due before you leave the building. Meet Richard, 68 years old, retired from Sacramento, California, had been in Dumaguete for 2 years, seemed fine, healthy, active, walked to the market every morning. Then a heart attack, rushed to the best private hospital in Cebu City. Survived, thank God. The bill, $58,000. His travel insurance denied the claim because he was classified as a resident, not a tourist. He had no international health insurance because the monthly premium seemed too expensive when he was budgeting. He had $62,000 in savings. He paid the bill, flew home with $4,000. 3 years of building a life in the Philippines, gone in one medical emergency. Richard's story is not unusual. It is the standard story. Medicare does not cover you outside the United States. This is not fine print. This is the most important financial fact about American retirement abroad, and most people don't fully absorb it until it's too late. Here is the healthcare reality by age. If you are under 65, international health insurance is expensive but obtainable. Budget $150 to $350 a month, depending on your health history and coverage level. If you are 65 to 69, premiums are higher. Pre-existing conditions are where they get you. That blood pressure medication you've been on for 10 years, pre-existing condition, often excluded. That knee surgery from 2018, pre-existing condition. The elevated cholesterol your doctor has been monitoring, pre-existing condition. Read the exclusions before you sign anything. If you are 70 to 74, coverage becomes significantly harder to obtain and significantly more expensive. Some policies become unavailable. If you are 75 or over, you are essentially uninsurable for comprehensive international coverage in most markets. This is not a scare tactic. This is the actuarial reality. If you are 75 or over and considering this move, healthcare planning is not an item on your checklist. It is the entire checklist. Trap 3. The visa maze. In recent years, Philippine immigration rules have been tightening and changing in ways that have blindsided long-term expats. The Special Resident Retirees Visa, the SRRV, sounds straightforward on paper. You meet the age requirement, you deposit money in a Philippine bank, you get long-term residency. Simple. Here is what people don't tell you about the SRRV process. The required deposit amounts have increased. For those over 50 with a pension, the current requirement is $10,000 deposited and held in an accredited bank. For those without a pension, $20,000. This money is yours, but it is locked. You cannot access it freely while you hold the SRRV. And if your financial situation changes and you need that money, accessing it means surrendering your long-term residency status. Processing times are unpredictable. I have spoken to expats who completed the process in 3 months. I have spoken to others who waited 11 months. During that waiting period, you are managing tourist visa extensions through the Bureau of Immigration, which has its own lines, its own procedures, its own occasional inconsistencies. And here is the thing that nobody says plainly. The Philippine government can change the SRRV requirements at any time. The deposit amounts have increased before. They can increase again. The benefits attached to the visa have been modified before. They can be modified again. If you are building your retirement plan around a specific set of visa rules that are current today, you need to understand that those rules are not guaranteed to remain current. Meet Carol, a 66-year-old retired teacher from Michigan, had been in the Philippines for 4 years on tourist visa extensions while she worked through the SRRV process. New documentation requirements were added midway through her application. Her file was essentially returned to the beginning. She spent $1,400 in agent fees on the first application that didn't complete. Started again. 6 months later, approved. The system works, but it does not work on your schedule, and it does not warn you in advance when the rules change. Trap 4. The property trap. This one is critical, and I want to be very direct about it. Foreign nationals cannot own land in the Philippines. This is not a technicality or a loophole to be worked around. This is the law, clearly and absolutely. You can own a condominium unit in a building where foreign ownership does not exceed 40% of the total units. You cannot own a house. You cannot own the land under any structure you build or buy. What this means in practice is this. If you enter a long-term lease on a house, you are a tenant. Your landlord owns what you are living in. If your landlord decides to sell, you may have protections under your lease agreement, or you may not, depending on how that agreement was written and what a Philippine court decides about it. I have spoken to expats who have poured $30,000, $50,000, even $80,000 into renovating homes they were leasing. Kitchens, bathrooms, extensions, gardens, improvements that they believed made the property their home. And then the landlord situation changed. A death in the family, a dispute between heirs, a decision to sell, and the improvements stayed with the property, and the expat moved out with nothing. The condominium ownership that is permitted for foreigners comes with its own traps. The Philippine property market, particularly in Cebu and Manila, has significant oversupply in the condominium segment. Properties that were purchased at pre-selling prices several years ago are in some cases worth less than the purchase price today. Transaction times are long. Finding a buyer can take 18 months or more. If you need to exit quickly, a visa problem, a health emergency, a family situation back home, a Philippine condo is not a liquid asset. Do not put money into Philippine real estate that you cannot afford to have locked up for an unpredictable period of time. Trap 5. The relationship. Trap, I am going to say this directly because the YouTube channels don't say it directly enough and people get destroyed. Organized romance scams targeting older Western retirees are real in the Philippines. Not because Filipinos are dishonest as a people, the overwhelming majority are not, but because where there is a concentration of older, often lonely, foreign retirees with fixed incomes and life savings, there will be people who specifically study how to exploit that. The setup is sophisticated. It does not look like a scam. The person seems genuine. They have a job. They are not asking for money. Weeks pass, then months. Trust builds, then emergencies begin. A sick parent, a medical bill, a business problem, a family crisis, always with a reason, always reasonable amounts at first, always with promises. Thomas, 61 years old, retired from Portland, Oregon. Over 23 months, he transferred $140,000 to a woman he believed he was going to marry. She was simultaneously running variations of the same arrangement with 3 other men. He found this out after she disappeared. He reported it to the Philippine authorities. The case went nowhere. The money was gone. The solution is not paranoia. The solution is time and caution. Genuine relationships do exist here. Many expats have found real partnership and real community. But a relationship that moves quickly to financial entanglement within the first year deserves a hard look. Any request for money, no matter how reasonable it sounds, is a signal to slow down entirely. Trap 6. The loneliness. Nobody talks about. According to mental health professionals working with expat communities in the Philippines, depression rates among foreign retirees run significantly higher than their home country averages. Isolation is the reason cited most often. The Philippines is English-speaking, which makes it feel accessible, and it is, at the surface level. But deep belonging, the kind that comes from shared cultural reference points, shared history, shared language in its full complexity, takes years to build, and many expats never fully reach it. You leave behind your professional identity, your social network, the neighbors who knew you, the community that recognized your name. You arrive somewhere warm and friendly where nobody knows who you were. Meet Frank, 64 years old, has been in Dumaguete for 6 years, goes to the same 2 bars every week, has not spoken to his adult children in 3 years. His Filipino partner left after 18 months. He speaks perhaps 30 words of Cebuano. He is not suffering from a lack of pleasant weather or cheap food. He is suffering from an absence of meaning, of being known, of mattering to anyone in any deep and sustained way. Frank is not unusual, he is common. And the videos that show you the beautiful markets and the warm smiles and the $2 meals do not show you Frank sitting alone on a Tuesday night wondering what this was all for. Before you move here, answer these questions honestly. What will you do with your time every day? Who will you talk to in a meaningful way? What gives your life structure and purpose beyond the novelty of being somewhere new? How will you maintain your relationships with the people who matter most to you? What happens when the novelty wears off, which it always does, and you are left with the ordinary texture of daily life in a country that is not your own? If you do not have clear answers, the Philippines will not provide them. A beautiful location is not a substitute for a meaningful life. Trap 7. The financial erosion you don't see coming. The peso has moved against the dollar in ways that have quietly eaten into expat purchasing power. Currency fluctuation is not dramatic. It is gradual, and gradual is what makes it dangerous, because you do not notice until the erosion is significant. Philippine inflation has been running at rates that compound year over year. The rent that was 12,000 pesos when you arrived is 15,500 pesos 3 years later. The medications that cost you 1,800 pesos a month are now 2,400 pesos. The market prices that made you feel wealthy when you first arrived are noticeably higher than they were 2 years ago. Your fixed Social Security payment has not kept pace. Tax compliance is increasingly complex for long-term residents. Philippines' tax obligations for foreign retirees interact with American tax obligations in ways that most people are not equipped to navigate without professional advice. The IRS requirement to report foreign financial accounts, the FBAR, applies to you if you have Philippine bank accounts above the threshold. Penalties for non-compliance are severe. Most expats I know are either not fully compliant or are spending significant money on accountants to ensure they are. And then there is this. The longer you are here, the harder it becomes to go back. Not emotionally, financially. The housing market in your home city has continued without you. Rents have increased. Social networks have moved on. The life you left is not waiting for you in the same form you left it. Expats who discover after 3 or 4 years that the Philippines is not working for them often find that going home is more expensive and more complicated than they anticipated. So, who does succeed? After everything I have described, you might be wondering if anyone gets this right. They do. The 18% who succeed long-term are not luckier or wealthier than the 82% who don't. They do several things differently. They arrive with a realistic minimum of $150,000 to $200,000 in liquid savings beyond their monthly income. Not to spend. As a genuine emergency cushion that covers medical evacuation, family emergency flights, legal fees, and the cost of going home if needed. This cushion is kept in a home country account, not locked in Philippine assets. They secure proper international health insurance before they arrive, not after. They read the exclusions. They understand what is and is not covered. They do not make assumptions. They maintain genuine home country connections, a valid home country address, a functioning bank account, an active relationship with an accountant who understands their international tax obligations, the ability to return home on reasonable terms if the situation requires it. They do not put everything into the Philippines, not their money, not their identity, not their sense of home. They treat it as a wonderful place they have chosen to live, not as the only place that can make them happy. That distinction matters enormously when things go wrong, which at some point, in some form, they always do. They budget honestly, not for the best case month, for the realistic average month and the bad month and the very bad month. They know what their numbers look like if the currency moves against them. They know what their numbers look like if their rent increases 20%. They know what their numbers look like if they need to fly home twice in 1 year. And they ask the hard questions before they arrive, not after. Let me be very clear about something before I close. The Philippines is a real country with real people and real beauty, and a genuine warmth that I have not encountered anywhere else on earth. The people are extraordinary. The food is extraordinary. The life that is available here, for the right person, with the right preparation and the right expectations, is genuinely good. But it is not magic. It does not fix what was broken before you arrived. It does not replace the things you leave behind. It does not suspend the ordinary realities of aging and illness and family and finances. It simply relocates them to a place where, if you are prepared, the conditions are favorable. The 82% fail not because the Philippines is a trap. They fail because they came for the wrong reasons, with the wrong preparation, with the wrong expectations. They came to escape. They should have come to build. They came with a budget built on the best-case scenario. They should have planned for the worst. They came having watched videos about someone else's life. They should have spent that time building the plan for their own. The dream is real. But the dream requires work before you board the plane. And the work starts now, not after you arrive. If this video made you think harder about your plan, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop your questions in the comments. And if you are planning this move, I want to hear where you are in the process and what your biggest concern is. The Philippines can be an extraordinary chapter. Just make sure you are ready to write it.